So we're going to finish strong. I'm glad there's so many of you in here. We've got some of the biggest names of the Finnish games industry talking about the state of play of the industry. And that'll be led off by, oh, look, there's a special chair. He's got his own chair. KooPee, come to the stage in your special chair. It's like mastermind here. You've got like the special of the chair.
Thank you.
Cool. I'm going to let you introduce your panelists and just take over. So I've been talking all day and everybody loves... Come and sit down. This is going to be a good one. This is going to be a good strong ending. Just get on. Get on the
First,
stage.
Ilari Kuittinen. Then Arja Martikainen. Miikka Lindgren. Ville Rauma, not hangover at all. And Antti Paikkala.
Everybody on board.
So, thank you guys for
This is
getting
very
here.
tight.
Yeah,
We have all this room.
The reason,
We manage.
The reason this is so tight that actually we were supposed to be 4 persons. In the morning, Erik called me that, okay, I can't come, I have fallen ill. Then I shanghaied Arja to our panel, and then Erik informed that Miikka is coming also. So we are, instead of 4 persons, we are 5, and instead of Erik, we have Miikka and Arja, who are voluntarily participating to this panel. So that's the story, long story short. But hey, short round of introductions, and I mean short.
All right. Hey, my name is Ilari Kuittinen. I'm a studio head, managing director of Housemarque. I've been in this industry for 3 decades, of 28 years of those at Housemarque, the company I co-founded. We are currently part of the PlayStation studios. We were acquired 2 years ago. Our latest game is called Returnal on PlayStation 5, and we got quite nice awards like Finnish Game Award of the Year, Nordic Game Award of the Year, and Best Game at BAFTA. So, been around.
For a while. Antti.
Very good. Hello everyone, my name is Antti Paikkala. I am head of marketing at Small Giant Games. We are a Helsinki-based developer, part of Zynga, part of Take-Two Interactive, and I've been working at the company for a better part of 6 years now. Before that, spent 5 years at Rovio, enjoying some Nordic collaboration among our studios there. But happy to be here.
Yeah, and that's exactly what we are talking today. So, Miikka.
Hello everyone, my name is Miikka Lindgren. I'm currently VP Publish of Sandsoft. Sandsoft is a gaming company, or let's say publisher, investor, gaming studio coming from Saudi Arabia. And I have a 25 years business career at the gaming industry. I started at Nokia in the early days, growing the Java games business, Engage, everybody knows, side talking and whatnot. So crazy times, boosting the Finnish gaming ecosystem. And then after that, 2011, I joined Rovio, went there over 10 years, and then now I have been a bit over 1 year at Sandsoft.
And on to Arja from Baro.
Hello everyone. My name is Arja Martikainen. I've been in gaming industry since 2004. I hold still one of the original Sumea contracts. But Sumea became Digital Chocolate, so I was their HR from start to finish. And then after that, I continued to Barona, where I run Games Jobs Finland. So I'm one of the recruiters of this industry, doing also a lot something else. And my hobby has been Sisu VC since 2015. So maybe I know something about that side too, but I do not make any decisions. So don't come to ask money from me. Go to Samuli.
And Ville.
Hi, Ville Rauma, Chief Operating Officer at Fingersoft. I think it must be now 16 years in games, which seems short and long at the same time. I believe you all know what I'm talking about. My responsibilities, I have 6 game teams, our live ops and QA. So kind of trying to help people make games, kind of like how we dreamed it would be possible to make games. Now it actually is. It wasn't 16 years ago, I believe. Ilari had even bigger dream back in the days. So, yeah, Thank you.
So basically, we are Finns talking about the other Nordics. So you can see where it goes. So, and I just actually made a rough estimation that there is 120 years of games industry experience on this stage at the moment, including me. So it's a quite a long time. We have seen things, I guess. But hey, the first question: what do we actually know about the other Nordic game industries? So do we know enough? Do we know anything? What are the sources of our information? So, who wants to start?
Well, I can start. It's mostly through personal connections, to be honest. We have a great Nordic game community. So over the years, you get to know lots of different people in the industry. So basically, I think you know some of the studios, you've been talking with them for a long time. So I think that's kind of the main source of that. And then, of course, there's a kind of some public records, like at least in Swedish Dataspelföreningen
Spelutvecklarindex.
Just so. No. So yeah, so you can know about that like maybe not that much from the Norway or Denmark. There are like only a few companies there, but you know, you have some sort of big picture of the big players, but maybe not the kind of grassroots knowledge.
Yeah, but I guess that some 15 years ago we used to do these Nordic trade missions together.
Yeah, that was
back
great.
in the day we had a closer connection to the other Nordic, even the small studios. So. How about Antti?
I'd say actually one good place just to find a lot of Nordic game companies is just to look at the top grossing charts of a lot of different countries, and even in the US we've had a number of very successful companies, not only here in Finland but also in Denmark, out of Sweden, on the mobile side, but also on the console side. When you look at some incredible successes that Sweden, for example, has produced, especially in AAA, I'd say that's a good place to come across these guys.
So you mean like King and Mojang and DICE and Cybo and those Funcom and those kind of companies?
Exactly.
Yeah. How about Miikka? You have been doing business also on the other side, so in the Nokia side back in the day.
Yeah, so obviously during my career I've been always like sourcing side, meaning that I've been sourcing games for the Nokia devices, I've been sourcing co-development partners for Rovio, and nowadays sourcing games to be published by Sandsoft. Obviously have been building my network in the Nordics, and I know many companies in the area, but clearly it is a growing ecosystem, and I see that there is more convergence now than ever, because in the early days it was that Finland was the destination of mobile gaming, and then Sweden was the destination of console gaming and PC gaming. Denmark was following a bit behind. Now you see that big screen converging to small screen due to that cross-platform gaming. I think there's a much more synergies than what has been earlier. So.
Yeah. And Iceland for CCP, basically.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Hey, Arja, you have been looking at this industry also from the other side, recruiting side, and you just told me that you made your first recruitment to Sweden. Was it correct?
Yeah, so that's about to happen now. But then before that, I've been helping at least 3 Icelandic companies to establish their teams in Finland. So the mainframe, the 1939, and then Solid Clouds, at least those. So I know quite a bit of the developers in the Nordics through my cases. So when we end up to a recruitment case, anything can happen. So a company may even have a unit in Paris after my touch. So, but it's yeah. I can say that I have fairly large network in the Nordics, but that's what I do. And then also like from investment side, of course, Sisu has been focusing to Nordics and to Finland, but also elsewhere. So this is the home. Sisu's home is Nordics.
And actually, I think that one of the things we have seen happening during the pandemic and after the pandemic is remote work and cross-border work. And it takes place in Europe, not only in the Nordics, but it takes place in the whole Europe at the moment.
Yes, a lot. So there are some companies in which like 30% of people work elsewhere, like anywhere in Europe or beyond.
So Ville, what is your take?
Yeah, so there's many takes, but one of the things which I find is we had a lot of friends in Swedish gaming ecosystem, and of course they're very focused on the, like, let's say PC console big games, whereas of course the mobile side is maybe, I would say that we are the kings maybe in Finland, but very, like, let's say we don't have like a direct any kind of partnerships or anything, but a lot of friends, a lot of useful discussions, and of course Dirty Bit in Norway, kind of holding the flag up there, so like trying to help them as well, because I believe we can. So I would say like it's close friends, not so much business relationship, at least in terms of Fingersoft.
Yeah, and I think that one of the reasons for this kind of close friendship has been the Nordic parties in different occasions, in Gamescom, in GDC, or in Nordic Game, and so on and so on. So actually we have connections to the other Nordic countries, and as you mentioned, companies like Dirty Bit, Anette has been very active also here in Finland, and I think that she knows us quite well at the moment. Yeah. So, yeah, when you have been doing business or having close relationship between Nordic studios or with the Nordic studios, what are the similarities? Is there any similarities, let's say, in Finnish studio or Swedish studio or Norwegian studio, or for God's sake, Icelandic or Danish studio? So, what do you think about that?
Now, with the Icelandics, you need to learn to listen to their English first.
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah.
But otherwise, I feel like that we feel very familiar. We have a certain type of cultural background that is very similar, so it's very easy to adapt.
The Nordic values are
quite
similar. Yeah.
Yeah, and this kind of trust, feeling of trust,
yes.
I guess.
Very easy to get along.
Yeah, I'd also say that the Nordic values in terms of how the company sort of is, how large of a part of the company is of the individual's life, in terms of you're expected to do X amount of work and then you have a life in addition to work. I think that's something that combines a lot of the countries in terms of work-life balance and how much that is valued across the Nordic countries. So I'd say that's one
So
thing.
you have this crazy thing called life outside working place.
At least at Small Giant, that's how we try to set up everything. So and it's been working out for us, and I would definitely recommend it.
Yeah, I think the same how the companies are set up, how they operate. I think there's a spirit of collaboration instead of a hierarchy, above the line, below the line, if you know what I mean. That like there's a boss who says everything and make all the decisions. I think it's not the Nordic way at all. So we try to collaborate quite a bit.
Well, if you think about the last 20 or so years, the industry has been growing a lot. So in 2004 or 3, around those days, when we made our first study actually about the Nordic industry, about the figures, facts and figures. So we were like 3,000 employees. And the turnover of the industry was, in the whole Nordic areas, 250 million euros, which is a lot of money. It's a shitload of money. But if it's compared to the 15,000 employees today and around 7 billion euros of turnover today, so we have been grown a lot in 20 years. So what do you see if we think about individual countries or Nordic areas? What have been the key points in that growth in the past?
Hard work.
Hard work.
Yeah, I think success breeds success. Success breeds success. So I think we started 20 years ago. We started to have, I think, first truly global hits like here. Max Payne was a big thing. Battlefield. So you started to have that, and so it puts Nordics in the map.
Yeah.
And hey, we can invest here because it's like the same what happened in Finland, like a Rovio effect in a way or something like that. So you start to believe, and somehow the expertise is building up, and new companies are being built and so forth. So I guess it's because the example of these successes you can build upon.
Exactly. So if you look at, for example, how Rovio is founded by some tech students that happen to meet in a certain university, and then they have 50 prototypes, couple hits after that, and then the other guy from across the pond notices that, hey, those guys made it pretty big, might as well start a game studio myself. And then because of the whole education and support that we've had around it, you meet people like-minded, everything, so I definitely sympathize with what you're saying.
And the more we have that, it's pretty non-linear how things happen, and suddenly you have Minecrafts or Clash of Clans like 10 years later. You start to have like truly amazing successes, billions of worth of revenue. So it's a non-linear thing that something happens like.
And I would say, like, I just add to that IGDA, I think this kind of like collaboration attitude, I think is quite exceptional, which has been at least helping us because we're from the north, and we've kind of had to find our way in the world, and I found that it's quite easy through IGDA to find friends like this and help us along the way. So.
Yeah, I would echo that success creates success. When I look at the time back in the time when I was working for Nokia, and we were releasing the first feature phones and smartphones, we reached out to Finnish developers to create content to be embedded on those devices, and that obviously was start of the Sumea and Mr. Good Living and whatnot. And we see now that these entrepreneurs are still working in this industry. So I was just having a discussion earlier today that does anyone know any people that have left the gaming industry? Like, is there any movement outside of gaming industry? If you come to gaming industry, you probably stick it for your lifetime.
It's a lifetime sentence.
Yeah.
In a way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know actually some people that have left gaming industry, but like
Maybe
what I say that, we need to drag them back.
Yeah.
But,
Maybe it's a bit earlier days when the cultures, the companies were that developed, and all these value. We didn't have the values. Everything is new. Nobody knew what they were doing. So maybe people burned out themselves.
Yeah.
We didn't look into this. We didn't have HR or anything like that, right? So there wasn't anything like that there. So now companies have matured, and now I think as an industry we take very good care of our employees. So
what I can say also is that what has been great is that there is still some sort of hygiene between the companies, that we have realized that if we do not do nursing, nurture for example, the organization, or bring new people in, it's not going to grow, and it's useless to try to steal from the neighbor, because it doesn't lead anywhere. So there is only one cake to share. So it's better to try to bring in new people and think out of the box every now and then. Okay, all right. And that's how it has been growing. And what I find also wonderful is that I know that CEOs have these breakfast meetings and such, where they basically open up their numbers to each other and tell how did it go really. So a lot of sharing happening.
Like global attitude, I would say. Because we're Finns, we're small, but the attitude is global.
Yes.
Yeah, what I heard, even in the States, I hear that even the local developers don't meet up at all. In Seattle area, and basically. So it's sounds pretty weird.
Yeah,
just this morning I heard that one person from Sweden just told me that there is very little happenings, for example, in the IGDA Sweden, which has been a super booster in Finland.
So there is differences also. Although we have this spirit of collaboration to some extent, there is also differences between the countries. Do you think that it's because of the different kind of histories? As mentioned, Sweden has always been more console-driven, PC-driven, and there has been studios which have been owned by big studios like EA and so on and so on. So do you think that that's the reason for that difference in sharing?
Hard to say.
Yeah, maybe it's more of the regional chapter of, for example, IGDA potentially not being as strong there. But then, for example, you do have major events like the one in Malmö that is now
Nordic
becoming
Game Conference.
exactly is becoming an annual sort of. I've personally never been, but it's a thing that now for the past couple of years tend to keep getting messages around the beginning of May that hey, are you actually going? Yeah. Which means that the sort of the profile of that event, for example, is rising, and the profile of more and more of the culture of that company in gaming is also rising as a result when you have these larger get-togethers. And like this event right here is a major benefactor also to a lot of the up-and-coming Finnish gaming studios, other Nordic gaming studios, because it's promoting and giving an opportunity for new game studios and on their way to be established gaming studios to meet people and meet financiers, meet basically others, and exchange the knowledge like Arja mentioned.
Yeah, I totally agree that having this kind of event in Helsinki, or as you mentioned in Malmö in the May, so it's pretty crucial when we think about the development of the Nordic area and Nordic game studios and Nordic game industries. And as in fact there is going to be another Nordic game conference just before SLUS, so we'll send you information about that quite soon. And one of the things you mentioned is that, okay, if we combine all the Nordic countries, we are like 25 million people, or 27, or we are about the same size as Shanghai, or a little bit smaller when it comes to the number of people. So, and back in the day, for a background, we have been doing this some kind of cooperation with other Nordic clusters like Dataspelbranschen from Sweden and Producentföreningen from Denmark and Norway, and IGA, Icelandic Games Industry, from the Iceland since 2004. And back in those days, our reasoning was exactly that we are 25 million people, we are a small player, we are it makes more sense for us to pool the money and pool the resources and do something as a Nordic. And that's the reason why we still have, for instance, in the Gamescom, the Nordic booth. But now when we have been growing, Sweden is big and Finland is big and so on. Do you see that there is this kind of reason? Does it exist anymore to do the Nordic cooperation? Or are we big enough by ourselves to do things?
I don't know, at least my feeling is that definitely we do need each other, because my feeling is that in creative industries in general, we benefit from talking to other companies, to other people, to representing, being around people, because creativity isn't something which is kind of like, there's no limit to it, or there's no kind of like downside to it. So basically, the more you talk to people, the more intuition you grow, the better things you can create, and you have more opportunities. I find that the more we're active in these things, the better we do as a company. So that's my feeling, at least.
Yeah, I kind of agree on that, if you look at now the current trend that, for example, Rovio, Remedy, both of them have a studio in Sweden. So literally, we are running out of talent here in Finland. So if you want to develop big games, you need to have more talent, and the best way of doing that is that you set up a studio in other Nordic countries, because, as said, we are sharing the same culture, so it's a really easy to operate. It's only 1 hour time difference what we have between the countries. And the other thing is that now that because of the COVID and the pandemic in general, I think that the kind of remote working is getting more and more popular. So that's an easy way now to expand your teams. You find talent that wants to work remotely, not willing to move to Finland for various reasons. So I think that will be just growing, the kind of a collaboration between the countries in game development and whatnot.
And I have been sometimes toying with the idea that why don't we see the Nordics as a one working area? So basically it's all the same in which Nordic country you live, but but you can work cross-border to other Nordic countries. And we have been Remedy has opened up a studio in Stockholm, and there is a Rovio studio in Stockholm
And Copenhagen.
And Copenhagen
as well.
So even in Denmark. So that's very good. That's very good
Mm.
progress in that sense. So.
Yes, and I think that like the current geopolitical situation has opened up the importance of being together, and I think that all these countries, they are looking at each other much more closely, and kind of like we are kind of like welding each other together. So I think it's good, and I was in Malmö again after very many years of break, and I managed to drag somebody to Helsinki. So if somebody's calling you next time to Malmö, go. It's fantastic there, and you make friends.
Yeah, but please do it, because if you haven't done it, I don't see what's the reason for that. And one of the things I have noticed that now when we have been, you mentioned geopolitics, and now when we are almost everybody in NATO, and Sweden will soon be in NATO, I think that it's a form of collaboration also. Not in the games industry as such, but it kind of creates a bond between the countries.
Yeah, I think that it's like in Nordic collaboration, there is the high tide at the moment. So like it has been questioning, like, is there any sense like doing, like everybody does their own gigs, but now even more than ever. And then it's it's easy to expand globally also.
And one interesting final point for this is that we've managed to get, I believe we have like over 20 nationalities now at Fingersoft, and most of them are in Oulu.
Yeah.
And we found that it's actually, it seems like the Nordic countries have a very good pull from abroad, outside the Nordics or Scandinavia, is that people actually want to come here, work here and live here. And it's very like, it happened during COVID. We didn't expect it. We were expecting that maybe some people would like to move here or in Oulu, but now actually it's very easy to get people. Like it's from anywhere, basically.
Yeah, that's quite interesting. We have only one poor Swede from other Nordic countries. We still have 20 nationalities.
Yeah.
So I don't know whether it's kind of what we are doing. We are doing a big console game. That there's lots of opportunities. Sweden, for instance, and you have one or two studios in both Norway and Denmark. So CCP is its own thing, right?
Was
Literally on
this
an island.
person married to a Finn? So I remember one Swede, like in Finland, and it was he ended up marrying a Finnish woman. So I came here.
That's the quite typical way to move.
Baltics is
from
very
country.
large sea to cross in that.
And
sense.
medal is important.
Metal. Okay.
We actually have several employees who moved to Finland because of medals. So.
Yeah.
And some people move away from Finland because of that. But that, I think that is
you
sums
have
up
to,
quite nicely. Yeah. Very Finnish question. What do you envy from the other Nordic countries? I mean, from the other Nordic game industries. Is there something you envy? Is there something you really would like to have here in Finland?
I don't know. Good question. I would say probably if there's anything you can actually envy is geolocation, in a sense that we're not part of the northern end of Germany, for example.
Yeah.
Therefore, it would be easier to go to work with a train from another country, for example.
Yeah.
That's just in Finland. We can never have that.
Geographical envy.
Yes,
in a way.
That's it. That's the extent that I'm...
Yeah. We are not willing to go further, apparently.
So there is nothing much we can do for that, but we are where we are.
Well, there is, but I mean, we're probably not going to go down that road.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know. It's pretty silent here.
I think one reason, or let's say one area that we could maybe envy is that the Swedish, let's say, entrepreneurship, like that they are more interested to set up their companies. Probably it's easier to raise funding for the companies, so kind of a supportive, kind of what the let's say country and also investors can provide to help you to set up your own company is probably easier in Sweden. I don't know if it is true, but that's my gut feeling. If you just look at the landscape, that how many success stories we have coming from Sweden in general on digital business.
Yeah, I would say that, yeah, they at least historically they have better access to capital. That's why they have so many of those big console game developers, because they were able to list those companies already late 90s, early 2000s in some of the lists, OTC, what kind of list they are. So I guess that builds up, right? So they are a bit ahead of the game, at least in that regards.
I have always said that the biggest difference between Swede and Finn is that when Finn tries something which is impossible and it doesn't succeed, he doesn't succeed, he is not surprised. But when a Swede tries something which is impossible and he doesn't succeed, he is surprised. So that's the reason why we are the happiest nation in the world. We always expect the worst, I guess. So.
Happiest nation in the world.
In the world.
Yeah, I think we have to change that to be content. I believe the word is completely wrong.
I know.
It's not happy, it's content.
Yeah. Well, I guess that we... The topic of this talk was the state of play of the Nordic games industry. So what do you think, what is the state of play of the Nordic game industry? Are we doing well in Nordics in general? So pretty tough question, I know.
Well, it seems to me that we are in a good health. And,
I always like to say to, like when we have this monthly internal company things, I oftentimes say that we are just getting started. That's the way it seems to me, that we have been building the foundations of have excellent creative industry, and now we actually have it. So where's to go but up?
Yeah, and certainly we can have those non-linear successes, more and more, which we've had over the past decade or two.
Yeah, and I was like thinking about it. Of course, we are doing fine, but what I've heard from CEOs and founding partners at the moment, there has been a bit of a struggle to get funding. So it has been a rough year for many. But then also yesterday we had a chat inside Sisu, so that basically at least Sisu is very committed to support. And also after our times, as a certain founder of Sisu said, so it's going to be a long-term commitment to Nordic gaming industry, and that's how it's supposed to be. In good times and in bad times.
Okay, good answers to very difficult question. I guess that this situation at the moment is affecting a little bit to all of us, despite what our industries are like mobile driven or PC console driven or online driven, but I guess that if you think about the Nordic game industries at large, we are very established industries. We have a lot of good assets, a lot of good qualities, and there is no doubt in my mind that we are able to cope in all circumstances in the future. So as Mr. Winston Churchill said, this is not the end, this is not maybe even the beginning of the end, but this is maybe the end of beginning. That's the way. That was the quote.
Okay.
So I guess that it sums up this quite nicely, and Chris is standing up, and yeah, but yeah, well, it's always nice to end to the Winston Churchill quote, but if this is not the end, the last question I will ask from all of you: what is the best Nordic game made ever? And you don't say your own games, but
they are the best. Few Nordic Game Awards.
Yeah, and BAFTA. Have you mentioned already BAFTA?
Well, I did.
Yeah, twice. But Ville, what is your?
So I'll say the first thing that came to mind: Max Payne.
Okay, Arja.
That's a good answer. But I admit that I played SimCity Mobile off Track 20 for a very long time.
So you were addicted to
it's like my old mates did that, so I was so proud of them.
Okay.
Because Ville took my answer,
You have to
I have to say then Alan Wake.
Okay. Antti
I'm gonna take Ville's answer and just say Max Payne.
and Ilari.
Best Nordic game. Shit, I should have prepared for this.
It was in the list. You could have prepared.
I know. I didn't read the whole list. I don't know. Truly don't know. It's hard because you excluded some of the best games from the list. I'll leave it to that. They're already in too Max Payne, so I can't like.
But there is still a lot of games.
I played this badly. I should have said one of them.
Yeah, I don't. I kind of decline to answer it.
Okay, there is 4 answers. One who doesn't answer, and because I'm moderator, I don't have to answer either. I can only ask questions. But now it's time to give a big hand to the panel and let the Chris come to the stage.
Awesome. We are coming to the end of it now. I just want to say that is the most. You had the difficult thing of being a lot of Finns talking about the Nordic industry. And you did talk about Nordic industry. If that had been like any other country, they'd have just gone, let's talk more about Finland, how amazing Finland is. But that was the most Finnish panel ever. That was so even-handed and fair. It's ridiculous. But thank you so much. I've made loads of notes. It's been fabulous. Does anybody have a final question for this incredible panel before we go to lunch? People are hungry. I know we're doing lunch later than you like it, but it is out there. So, on that note, big thank you again for this incredible panel. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.
Good.